My grandmother died 3 days ago and left me her abandoned attic. But inside a rusted safe, I found a diary written in 1952 that had my name written on the cover. I stood there in the middle of that dusty room, the cold metal of the safe key still biting into my palm, staring down at my own handwriting. Only, it couldn't be mine. The leather was cracked, smelling faintly of old paper and dried lavender, and the golden ink faded into the leather read my full name, clear as day. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Up until 3 days ago, my life had been painfully ordinary. I was the quiet granddaughter, the one who stayed behind to help Nana with her garden, while the rest of the family moved away to chase bigger lives. When the lawyer read her final will, everyone expected the house to be split equally. Instead, Nana left the house to my uncle, the savings to my mother, and to me, she left only the key to the locked attic on the 3rd floor. My mother had laughed, a short, bitter sound, telling me Nana was just being senile in her final days. But as I opened the heavy wooden door and stepped into the dim light of the attic, I knew Nana hadn't lost her mind. She was waiting for me to find this. The safe sat beneath a heavy canvas sheet in the corner. It was a heavy iron monstrosity that looked like it belonged in an old bank vault. When I turned the key, the lock groaned, fighting against decades of rust, before finally giving way with a sharp metallic click. Inside, there were no stacks of cash or expensive jewelry. There was only a velvet-lined box, and inside it, this diary. I sat down on a dusty trunk, my hands shaking as I opened the first page. The date stamped at the top was September 14th, 1952. The script was elegant, written in deep blue fountain pen ink that had barely faded over 70 years. The entry began with a sentence that made the room spin around me. "If you are reading this, my sweet girl, then I am gone, and the lie that kept you safe has finally come to an end." I rubbed my eyes, reading the sentence over and over. I was born in 1998. How could a diary written in 1952 be addressing me? I turned the page, my throat dry, every instinct telling me to close the book and walk away. But my fingers kept moving. Nana's written voice was different here. In life, she was a soft-spoken woman who rarely raised her voice. But the words on these yellowed pages were filled with a fierce, desperate edge. She spoke of a family named the Vaincroft Estate, a name I had only heard mentioned in local history books as the wealthy dynasty that suddenly vanished from our town in the middle of the last century. According to the diary, the Vaincrofts hadn't just moved away or lost their fortune. They were betrayed from the inside. A bitter rivalry over their vast estate and real estate holdings had driven a wedge through the family, leading to a quiet, calculated tragedy that the town buried under decades of gossip. Nana wasn't just a housekeeper for the Vaincrofts, as she had told us all my life. She was the trusted confidant of Eleanor Vaincroft, the youngest daughter and the sole heir to the entire legacy. And then came the entry that made my breath catch in my throat. Eleanor knew they were coming for her, the entry read. She knew she wouldn't survive the night, but she had one final card to play. She handed me her infant daughter, wrapped in embroidered wool blanket, and begged me to run. She made me swear to hide the child, to give her a new name, and to wait until the child was old enough, wise enough, to claim what was rightfully hers. I stared at the page, my mind racing. My mother was born in 1960. If Nana had taken a child in 1952, that child couldn't be my mother. I turned several pages ahead, skipping months of desperate entries detailing how Nana hid from the people searching for the missing child, moving from town to town under fake identities, living in constant fear. And then, near the back of the diary, the entry dates jumped decades ahead. Transitioning into handwriting I recognized instantly. Nana's older, shakier scrawl from just a few years ago. "I tried to raise your mother as my own," the note said. "But the shadow of that night followed us. I knew if I gave you the Vaincroft name too soon, the same forces that destroyed Eleanor would come for you. So I waited. I watched you grow, hoping you would inherit your grandmother Eleanor's strength." A cold wave washed over me. I wasn't just Nana's granddaughter by blood. My mother had been adopted in secret. The woman I called Nana was the brave protector who had spent her entire life shielding our line from a dark past. I wasn't an ordinary girl from a small town. I was the last living descendant of the Vaincroft family. Tucked into the very last pocket of the diary was a small, faded photograph and an official sealed document. The photograph showed a young woman sitting by a grand window, wearing a silver locket shaped like a crescent moon. I reached up to touch my own neck, feeling the cool metal of the exact same silver locket Nana had gifted me on my 18th birthday. I had never taken it off. The document beneath the photo was an original deed of trust, stamped by a high court in 1952, legally transferring the entire untouched Vaincroft estate into a private trust, accessible only by the bearer of the locket and the rightful heir named in the secret diary. My hands trembled as I realized what this meant. The family who had taken over the Vaincroft lands, the prominent local figures who currently owned half the businesses in our city, had built their empire on a foundation of theft and secrets. They believed the true bloodline had died out 70 years ago. They had no idea that the real heir had been living just 5 miles away, watching them from the shadows. I closed the diary, the leather cool against my fingertips. The dust motes floated in the afternoon light pouring through the attic window. But the world outside no longer looked the same. For my entire life, I had felt out of place, like a guest in my own family, trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for me. Now, every piece of the puzzle was falling into place. Nana hadn't left me an old room filled with junk. She had left me a key to my true identity, a record of a crime that needed to be answered for, and the power to reclaim everything that had been stolen from my family. I carefully placed the diary and the deed inside my bag, locked the rusted safe once more, and walked down the creaky attic stairs. As I reached the front door, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother, asking if I had finished clearing out Nana's trash so they could put the house up for sale. I looked back up toward the 3rd floor one last time, a quiet smile settling on my face. I didn't reply to the text. Instead, I opened my contacts and dialed the number of the legal firm listed on the yellow deed from 1952. It was time to pay a visit to the people who thought they had gotten away with everything. The secret was finally out, and I was ready to take back what was mine.